Hi, my name is Brenda Perales, and I live in Leesburg, Virginia. And 9 years ago, actually, this month, I was started my MMN journey. Um, so for me, I have it in my legs, and I noticed probably a few years before I actually got diagnosed that it was getting harder for me to walk, and I couldn't power walk anymore. I was starting to limp, and it's one of those things as a mom, you just kind of put off taking care of yourself first, and you're focused on your family. So it wasn't slowing me down. So I decided I'll check later. So it was in 2013. So 9 years ago in January, I finally hit the point where I had enough stuff happen where my foot went numb and I went down really hard and I was really struggling to get around. I decided I need to go start getting checked. So that was in 2013. My original symptoms, like I said, were weakness in my legs. I was struggling with I had a drop left foot, which I didn't know at the time, but it was really weak. My toes wouldn't move. And I had a really severe limp. My legs were cramping. I was tripping all the time. And I knew I just couldn't get around. I didn't have the energy. I was really tired all the time. So MMN is your immune system is attacking your motor nerves. And when your nerves and your muscles aren't speaking to each other, it makes it really hard for your body to move. In my case, I had it strictly in my legs. So that's what was making it so hard for my legs to move, my weak ankle, my toes to not, I had a lot of nerve damage in my foot. So it's just basically your nerves and your muscles are not speaking to each other. And for me, because it was in my legs, it was like carrying around like an extra 70-pound backpack all the time. And your body just has to work that much harder to move you. So you're just fatigued a lot. Your body's tired a lot. And I know people have different symptoms in their upper body where they have their refined motor skills are affected. So in that sense, and some people are having in both their upper and their lower body. So for me to get diagnosed, and I was very fortunate because a lot of people, it takes years for them to get diagnosed because it is so rare. So I initially went to my primary care doctor who looked at me and she was a little concerned. So she took me, she gave me an appointment to get an MRI on my back. When that came back normal, she sent me to a neurologist, and that was really confusing because when you think, I just thought it was a pinched nerve in my back. I didn't know what was going on, but you don't think neurology. And so from that point, I went to a local neurologist, and he ran the nerve conduction study and did some other things. And didn't fit into any box neatly. So at that point, they decided to send me up to Johns Hopkins to a doctor there who specializes in MMN, CIDP, and ALS. So that was an all-day appointment, and I had another nerve conduction study. I had blood work done. I had just a boatload of tests done. And by the end of that day, the neurologist there told me that everything was pointing to ALS, which is very scary. And unfortunately, a lot of us that are diagnosed with MMN are initially diagnosed with ALS. So I remember leaving the hospital, and it was a beautiful sunny day. And all I could remember, I kept thinking, how could this be happening? And, am I going to see my kids grow up? I just, it's like the worst thing to have somebody tell you. And so from that point on, they put me on a fast track for testing. I had more blood work done. I had a lumbar puncture. I had a CAT scan done. I had more MRIs done. And because basically when they think you have ALS, they're just trying to see if there's anything else possibly that could be causing this. So just before I was actually supposed to start the medication for ALS, my doctor called me, told me to hold off. And he wanted me to get a further test done to see if I carried the gene for ALS, which I guess can be a non-familiar gene, which is evident in like 33% of the people with ALS. So I had to wait a month there. And of course, all I kept thinking again were my kids. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to pass this on to them? It was horrible. It was very stressful time. So after that was over, I went back up to Johns Hopkins, and he said, well, there's one more thing we can try. And I'm like, I'll do anything. So he said, we can try IVIG. So he set me up for a 5-day loading dose and then 3 doses after that every 3 weeks over 2 days. And then I was to come back and see him. So I started my loading dose, and it's so funny because you think you would notice yourself if something happened when my husband did. So we were in Costco, and I was walking behind him, and he turned to me and he said, "I don't hear you coming." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Your foot, it's not hitting the floor. I don't hear you coming." So I was like, seriously? But when you're told you have ALS, it's like your brain and your heart are having a hard time keeping up with each other. And I was too afraid to get too excited that, okay, maybe this isn't what it is. So we went through finished the 5-day loading dose, and I went through 3 more treatments. And then I was sent back up to Johns Hopkins. And I would say all this happened in like a 5-month period. And once he also realized that I was responding, to the IVIG, then he was able at that point to take me out of the ALS column and put me in the MMN column. So now I have MMN, and it's like, okay, now what? So what does this even mean? I didn't even know. So from there, I learned a lot about IVIG, and I was put on that for 2 years, and it did help me, but I was very up and down with IVIG, and I believe I was underdosed because I was having really bad side effects to it. Like I'd have flu-like symptoms for 3 days, and I would lose 3 or 4 days after my treatment. So every 3 weeks, just imagine losing 5 days where you just really can't function very well. It was very tough, and trying to plan that around anything was really, really hard. So fortunately, I was my neurologist at Johns Hopkins, who was my primary care doctor at that time and still is, was familiar with subcutaneous. So what's the different? IVIG and subcutaneous are similar, and it's plasma based. So you get that same, the effects are the same, except with SubQ, it goes underneath your skin and dissipates, versus IVIG goes directly into your veins. So there was a process there where we had to do 3 different tries, because getting the SubQ dose right is very important. And so my sweet spot was 35 grams a week. So I do 6 needles, 3 in each thigh, once a week. And it was a game changer for me. My body had time to recuperate. I didn't have the ups and downs. I wasn't sick anymore. I could travel with it. And 9 years later, those nerves that weren't overly affected, like they usually say 12 to 13 months, those nerves were, able to heal. And I'm actually stronger now than I was 9 years ago when I first was diagnosed. So I don't do any physical therapy, although I do some stretching, and it is good to work out. I think physical therapy is kind of a personal thing, depending on what's wrong. Like for me with my legs, I don't know. I think just exercising my leg is good, but if you have like upper body skills or motor skills, fine motor skills, physical therapy might be a great thing to help, fine tune those or work the muscles in like your hands or your arms. So for MMN, my life is really different. I had to go through a huge transition to get to my new normal, I like to call it. As a mom and a wife, you have certain expectations for yourself. And I had to be okay with the fact that I couldn't be the Wonder Woman of a mom and the wife that I was, going 100 miles an hour. I had to be okay with that. And it was very, very hard for me, the person who always was helping, to ask for help. And it wasn't that my family wasn't willing to do it. It was just, I'm not a kind of person that likes to ask for help. It was very hard. And I just felt, I got very depressed, and I was very anxious, and it was just trying to adjust to that new normal. So I did go through some therapy, mental health therapy, to just kind of wrap my brain around that, I couldn't control what was happening to my body, but how I reacted to that, I could control. And it took me a while to get to a very good mental place. And I think once you get to that good mental place, everything else kind of falls into place. And, it being, part of, just being part of the foundation and all the opportunities it's given me just because I have MMN who would have thought that I'd be at this point in my life right now? And so in some ways, it's really made me look at life a lot differently. I appreciate things a lot more. I'm more patient. I live each day. I find joy in a lot more things. I've learned to be okay with saying no, which was really hard for me to do. It just, and my family, thank goodness, they're amazing, and they love and support me and don't make me feel bad. They're like, Mom, seriously, it's fine. I put pressure on myself. They don't put pressure on me. And so I think for anybody that's just diagnosed with MMN, it's normal to be afraid because you just don't know what the future holds. But 9 years later, I can tell you I have a great life. I have a great family. I have great friends. I'm involved with, I'm doing something I love and I'm passionate about with the foundation. It's really given me a different perspective. And I have some bad days, everybody does, but I don't live there. I try to just stay as positive as I can and realize that I've got so much to be thankful for. So I think it's important to find your group and those people that can pick you up and that understand, whether it be on social media, with the foundation, just with anything, just to give you that support. Because until you live with this, people can try to be supportive and try to help you, but unless you're actually living it, it's really hard. It's like they try, but it's not the same as talking to somebody that is going through the same thing or something very similar to you, because they get it, they understand. I use SubQ instead of IVIG, and it's as IVIG, you have a nurse come out and they infuse it into your veins. With SubQ, I infuse myself. So I stick 3 needles in each thigh, and it takes about 3 to 4 hours to do, and I do that every Monday. And it's awesome because for me, it gave me some of my independence back. I could travel with it. I go to Colorado to visit my family. I've taken it to England when we traveled there. And so it gives me my independence back. And when you lose control of so much, it's so nice to get some of your independence back. When I found out there was going to be a research grant specifically for MMN, I was incredibly excited. This is something that, we're used to with MMN being the trickle down thing. So there's, research grants for stuff that kind of pertains to parts of MMN, but we've never had anything that's just specifically for MMN. So it's just so incredibly excited because this is such a rare disease, and to have something just earmarked specifically for us was just amazing. And I'm so excited. MMN Awareness Month was so very important to me because I want to get the awareness out there. I want you to know you're not alone. There's a whole group of people at the foundation that are here to help answer questions and, be supportive and take a little bit of the fear out of it and realize, look at me, I still have a great life. And I know a lot of people with MMN too that still have a great life. There's struggles, there's different things you have to deal with, but, don't let MMN define who you are. It's just a piece of you. You've got a lot more to offer. And it is very scary. The unknown's always scary, but knowing people that have done this process and are came out the other end, successful, hopefully will give you hope and, to carry on and live each day and do everything that you need to do and enjoy life and don't give up. So thank you.